Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on September 8th, 2025 at approximately 8 p.m. PST. Now, I've made it my life's journey to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies that I personally utilize to guide virtually every move I make. There, kill the echo. Now, with this in mind, that was a nice noise. I like when I get that. Oh, okay. With this in mind, the one thing we have to keep in the forefront of your mind is the tools I offer. I use them, and if you desire your life to change today, not in 7 seconds now, okay, these tools have worked for literally thousands of other people. Now, before I get into it, we're going to go back up here, and we're going to try and do this right this time. We have Eternity Eternal in with the gold. How's it going, Eternity? Glad you could join us. And then we scroll down and we have Rachel Andrews in with the silver. How's it going, Rachel? And then we have Renee in right, hot behind her with the bronze. You know, I can't tell you how happy I am, how shall we say content I am that I'm finally getting things back on track. And here we have Operation Shutdown is in with honorable mention. Glad to see you guys all again. Rest assured, I'm not taking another month off to go and get married. I've already done that. Okay. However, my wife at this point has gone south of the border again to collect her stuff up. So with this in mind, we have a lot of changes coming up. But the one that we're going to look at today is real simple. Okay, because this is Monday and I've laid out a new schedule. So just to quickly go over it, Friday and Saturday, we're going to be looking at the alien aspect of things. On Sunday, we're going to be looking at productive positivity. In other words, how do you make your life better in a functional fashion? Mondays, we're going to cover finance. And then on Tuesdays, we're going to cover self-help. Now, again, guys, if you have questions, please put them in all caps. Because I'll tell you, I'm working on a small screen right now, and the odds are I'll miss them if you don't. Now, we definitely have to tip our hat to Storm. He is running tech for us from some of the most bizarre places you can imagine on occasion. And in all fairness, if it weren't for him, we wouldn't be on air. It's just that simple. Now, let's just make sure I didn't miss something. Where are we here? Oh, did I miss somebody? I did. Joe, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I did send you a response. And to be clear, I'm missing a little bit of information. You're going to have to give me something. Sent you a response to your question from yesterday about what is a white light. Well, as I put in the response to you, I'm going to need a little more information from you, but I will get the information. Now, what do we got here? Well, I was like that. Now, that said, there's been some pretty serious challenges come up in the last little while. Time-wise, tech-wise, I lost my big computer. Thankfully, I've got a new one. Now, we're going to look at finances today and compare the idea of running a budget or running percentages. Now, I will tell you, everybody I talk to just about says, oh, you got to put a budget together in order to get ahead. Well, let's take a look at the biggest example of how off kilter that really is. Okay, every major corporation sets a budget. and that includes your illustrious government, wherever you happen to be. They all set budgets, and they all falter. Okay, because the problem with setting an actual budget is unless you have a definitive amount of money coming in on a regular basis, you can't do it. If you're gambling on money coming back in, a budget won't work. Okay, so now understand, I do have books. If you go to the website, to the Buy Me a Coffee website, buymeacoffee.com/inner voice J. Okay, there is a book there called Believe in Your Finances and Follow Your Dreams, available in both hard physical copy, and I've got them in stock, or in PDF. Okay, and in PDF, take your pick. In any event, when you start looking at a budget, if you aim for a budget and you don't have a definite amount, you could be in serious trouble. Okay, now I'm just making sure I didn't miss something here. Oh, okay. Oh, I just sent. I will take a look at it tonight. Either tonight, Joe. I meant to do it yesterday when I got off the air. Unfortunately, I collapsed. And I do mean that from an exhaustion standpoint, not a health standpoint. But when you start looking at your income, okay, the important thing you have to look at is, number one, do you have a definitive amount of money coming in every month? Now, if you happen to be on social assistance or on a retirement fund, then the odds are you've got a stable. Every month you get this amount of money. A budget will work wonders. If you don't, you've got an interesting problem, because the budget won't work, because what will have to end up happening is you'll have to adjust all the time. Oh, I didn't quite get enough to cover my utilities, so I'm going to have to take from something. Now, understand, very important, where it comes to your finances, and this is what I personally do. I'm not talking about this being a question of, oh, I read in some fancy book written by some multimillionaire on how to handle money. I mean, it's a great idea. So many books out there tell you, oh, you can do this with X number of dollars. If you've got $40,000 in your hand, you can do this. I work with, if you've got $1.50 in your hand and a steady income, we can put you on the right track, but you're going to have to do the work. And Robert, long time no see. I am very happy to see you again. And, I knew, the funny part about the whole marriage thing is I knew when I got divorced in the first place, I would marry again. Little did I know the way it was going to go in reality. But at this point, a couple of things to keep in mind. When you're looking at budgeting, okay, absolutely get an idea. You've got to have a list of what you owe. Okay, and I do mean what your rent is, your rent or lease or mortgage, whatever. Okay, you've got to know what that is. You've got to know what your bills are and when they have to be paid. Now, I'm going to show you something here. Like I said, I'm a dinosaur. Okay, now I didn't exactly say that before tonight. Well, not before tonight, but anyway, I have to get that out of the way. Yes, I'm working on paperwork. That's normal for me. But I use a desktop calendar. Whoop, that's not working well. Let's take a peek at that. There. I use a desktop calendar. Okay, said I'm a dinosaur. I do not rely on electronics a whole lot. And there's a reason for that. The reality of it is, what we got? Oh, nice there, Robert. That's the one thing that you do with it, that you can do with money. But the whole catch to it is this. If you're going to buy a piece of property, buy a house big enough to accommodate you. And as it was put to me by a millionaire one day, if you're looking to buy a piece of property, buy a piece of property that is huge because you're buying privacy. Okay, that's what you're really paying for. Now, one of the nice parts about this whole situation where it comes to finance, I didn't pay attention to it when I was younger. And I'm telling you, if you're any younger than I am, get on it. This is not a question of you've got to make money a going concern. This is a question of down the road, you're the one that's going to have to pay attention to your finances and what you're doing with them. But a budget, if you set that up, the biggest problem that you run into with a budget is you bank on having X amount of dollars. But what happens if that doesn't come in? Or what do you do with it if it comes in higher? Now, here's the thing with money. Money does not care how you feel. Doesn't care whether you're ill, doesn't care whether you're happy. It will do what it does. Okay? But, and there's all kinds of things you can do with it. But the thing with a budget is this. If you've got a surplus, it's only a surplus if you put it to use. If you actually utilize it properly. Now, if you're younger, and when I say younger, I'm 62. Okay? If I just started doing this, which is, by the way, what I was teaching people back when I was 20, if I'd have done that, I would be in extremely good shape right now. As it is, I've got different goals in mind. Okay, now, I am building, and I've mentioned this before, I'm building an empire. But over the last couple of months, I absolutely revamped it. I'm not building a physical location for the moment. Okay, I'm putting the nerve structure in place first. This means we're going wide on the net. I'm going to figure out one way or the other how to make the net work in my favor. Now, whether that means talking to other people, okay, and any input or insight that anybody's got to offer, and I'll put it to you bluntly, free, okay, anybody that's got insight that they feel will be beneficial, absolutely let me know. This office that I'm sitting in, this is the brainchild. Okay, now, I've got things I've got to pick up, not the least of which is a new monitoring system. But the trick with it is this. What you do where it comes to a big ticket item, assuming that the item hasn't collapsed. Like, for instance, if you've got a washer, a dryer, a freezer, one of your big appliances that all of a sudden buckles, you may have to buy it on payments because you require it right away. If you don't require it right away, like for instance, a living room suite, go to your local store, and you can absolutely go into the rent-home places. Okay, go in and talk to different furniture places, find out what the cost of a suite is. Okay, and then you figure it out. You go, okay, let's say you've got $1,000 that you've got to spend. That it's going to cost you to get a small suite. Okay, if you feel that you can make payments for rent to own it, then you can certainly put $200 aside a month to get $1,200 put aside so you can cover tax. Okay, and in 6 months you can have your suite bought and paid for. If you go the route of leasing or renting to own, okay, something like that, you're going to pay double to 2.5 times what it's worth. Okay, so when we're talking about budgeting, we are talking about making certain you know how much money it's going to cost you, and then put the money in your own bank. It won't make much interest, but it'll cost you a fortune less to put the money aside and then buy it outright. Okay, I've already started looking at bringing a new couch in. I don't require it. I desire it. So I'm going to find out what it costs. And then I'm going to put the money aside for it. Now, what have I got here? Oh, there we are. I do. The reason I lean a little closer to the screen right now is I'm working off a 15-inch monitor instead of a 2-foot monitor. Okay, but I will get an adapter for that soon enough. When you're looking at, now the reason I say budget versus percentage, you get your minimums paid, i.e. get your rent paid first, rent, lease, whatever. Then number one priority bill is your power. And I get into this wonderful discussion with people regularly. Well, why, I've got to have my cable. I know my power's behind, but I've got to have my cable. I'm like, you do realize you don't pay your cable, you don't pay your power bill, the cable won't work. So you've got to make absolutely certain that you get your power paid. Then pay your utilities and pay them the minimum at least on one credit card. Now, this is where the percentage comes in. You take all that, and let's say you've got $100 left, and I may be overshooting for some of you. Okay. But you still have long-term savings you've got to put money aside for, and I encourage you to do this because I didn't. Okay? What I'm doing my best to do is say, hey, I've made these mistakes. Now, you don't have to believe me. Absolutely you don't. You don't have to take my word for it. Matter of fact, I encourage you to trust and to do your own research. But you've got 3 areas that it would be really wise to put money aside for when you out of whatever you've got left. Okay, that being long-term savings. Okay, and if you've got long-term savings, big budget purchases is another one you want to look at. And maybe it's a holiday you'd like to put money aside for. So you take that excess that you've got left, that $100, you split it in 3. In other words, 33%, 1/3 goes to each of those. If you've got 4 projects that you desire to fund, split it in 4. Now, understand, this is not a get-rich-quick method. Okay, this is a question of getting comfortable first. Now, there's lots of books out there that'll tell you how to handle finances if you've got $40,000 or $50,000. Now, I don't know about you. I don't have $40,000 to $50,000 myself. Okay, I should. I'm owed that much, but I don't have it right now. Now, that said, okay, as a matter of fact, where is it here? Should I grab this beforehand? I will get used to that. This is the neat little book I was referring to. Okay, where are we? Back to that window. This book here. Okay, now, lighting's really pathetic, and I don't have the lamp turned on right now, so we'll have to live with it. But that's Believe in Your Finances and Follow Your Dreams. That you can get through the Buy Me a Coffee link. It was suggested because this is where my income comes from. The stream I will remain doing for free. Okay, as with the newsletter. And again, I ended up being behind the 8 ball on that. But the nice part about it is I've got this goal in mind. I've got this wonderful vision that because of the people I see in this room, I know we can turn this world around in spite of what our leaders are doing, our so-called leaders are doing. Joe's gone. One of my goals to accomplish this year is to visit some cemeteries with my older sister. Of course, that will take time to plan. Absolutely. And don't forget, Joe, when you're looking at a holiday or a journey with somebody else, start it off by laying out what you'd like so that it runs your goal, and then invite them and go, this is what I'm looking for. Now, of course, you have to be prepared to adjust things, to adjust to their schedule as well. This same thing applies when you go to buy a piece of furniture. Okay, if you've got a partner, communication is absolutely critical. Now, here's the kicker. Okay, now I'm looking at the whole idea of getting this message out to people. Now, I will do what I can as far as improving my own efforts and figuring out how to do it. Okay, because I have relied on other people regarding marketing. This has just not worked out well. But with your guys' help, and some of you have been doing a phenomenal job, and just coming in and sharing your time with me, taking this hour out, absolutely helps me immensely on the whole idea of whether what I'm attempting to do is making any impact. Now, this neat little book I mentioned, the reason I show it to you is because it's a staggering price. Okay, you'll notice it's not really big, but the reality is it's not the thickness of the book. I can absolutely fill it with a bunch of fluff, and I can tell you all kinds of stories about people I've seen that have made a go of their life. Okay, but let me put it this way. You don't have to have examples laid out by me. When you look at budgeting, it boils down to planning. If it's going to cost you $100 to buy something and you don't make enough to buy it outright, then figure out what you can afford to put aside. Okay, maybe you can only afford to put aside $25 a month. Maybe you can only put $10 aside. Now, to buy something $100 down the road, if you're putting $10 aside a month, eventually you'll get it. I'm absolutely tickled pink to hear that, Operation. And the reality is I've had a lot of help to make sure they work properly. I'm still learning, and that will be an ongoing process. It may take you a long time to put the money aside to get what you're aiming for, but ask yourself this: is it worth it to you? Or would you rather pay $200 or $300 down over time to get something you can pay for outright? Okay, I do find the rent-to-own places are great places to go and get an idea on how much money to put aside. Okay, I have furnished more houses than I care to count, or more apartments in my case, using rent-to-own techniques. Bad idea. Absolutely, that was nearly rude. Absolutely a bad idea. Okay, now, that said, okay, if you follow this idea and you go, okay, I've got a $1,000 couch that I desire to put in my house. Okay, which, by the way, that's what I'm looking at getting at this point. Okay, because my old one, I just simply desire to change it. It isn't required. So I'm going to put the money aside over a number of months and make it happen. Okay, I'm putting money aside because my wife and I have decided we are going on a holiday. We are going on a honeymoon. We are going to go, and you're going to love this one, because we got no money in the bank right now. We are going in a couple of years to be on a Disney cruise for an anniversary. Okay, that's going to be our honeymoon at the same time. Well, the nice part is we're looking at it going, this is how we're going to do it. Now, my father made a comment one day years ago. Of course, it had to be years ago. He passed away 5 years ago. But he made a comment, and what he told me was very succinct. He goes, you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. Okay, and with that in mind, when you're looking at what you're aiming for, number one, it requires communication. Absolutely critical. Now, you can talk to God, you can talk to your financial advisors. The reality is this, if you don't make the effort, all the talking in the world isn't going to do a bit of good for you. Well, I shouldn't say it won't do a bit of good. You may convince yourself, oh, I'm going to pray and it'll show up in my bank account. I've tried that for decades. And truth be told, if you believe in past lives, I've tried that for centuries. So far it's been pretty ineffective. But when I've asked for guidance, not necessarily from a millionaire. One of the best pieces of financial advice I ever got came from a chap that was living on the street. But you take a look at the money you've got. Now, I'm going to show you something here. And by the way, these little tricks on budgeting and handling that are all contained in Believe in Your Finances. Here's the neat thing. Okay, when I decided that I was going to start pushing this venue and going, okay, let's see if we can get you guys on track. Now, I've made some pretty horrendous mistakes. The biggest one was I didn't care about money at all. I loaned out money I had, but without thinking about the side effects. Now, I'm behind the 8 ball, and I'm just now starting to have a black balance in my bank. Okay, and this is why I say, when you're looking at budgeting only works if you actually have a stable income. Okay, and I mean a stable static income. And I'll tell you, if you're being paid by the hour, you don't have a stable income. In most cases anyway. Well, can't quite read that there. What do we got? Oh, there you go. Joe, I just read what Joe wrote. He says, I came on and he says, I've been focusing on staying positive, and today nothing bad happened. Gee, I wish that was the way it always worked. But absolutely, it's the same thing that I deal with. And let me show you something here. I don't know how it's going to show up. Okay, so you may just have to take my word for it. But, let's see. But here's the thing. Okay, if I relax my hand. Now I'm doing this intentionally, but this is what I did. Okay, constantly for the last 2 decades. Okay, I finally found out what caused it, and now when I hold my hand out, that's without concentrating on it, aside from to stop it from falling. I mean, this little thing, that's because I can't hold my hand absolutely solidly steady. But when you focus on the things you desire to attain in life, okay, and you start working on them, budgeting is great, but it means plan what you're doing. Okay, lay out what you owe, and then work to pay it off. And remember, the whole catch to having your bank account grow is spend less than what is coming in. Where it comes to percentages, and I know that's a weird word for some of you, okay, if you can afford to do without whatever the new item is, I'm telling you, put money aside, and it doesn't matter from my standpoint. If you're aiming at putting $100 aside, grab a shoebox, pull $25 a month out or $10 a month, whatever you can do, and put it in that box, and make sure that box is literally to go and pay for whatever it is you're aiming for. Okay, And again, this is a tool I personally am using. Now, when we're doing the other thing about percentages and budgeting, I've been talking about finance. What you may not know, okay, well, oops. Oh, there we are. Who did I miss? Oh, Joanne, how we doing? Glad you could join us. This is one of the reasons I've got to get this other monitor up so I can actually see it when I'm looking at it without getting right up to the computer. You know, my eyes work great for reading close at hand, but that's not close. Now, when I'm talking about budgeting, it also applies to time management. Okay. Now, Joe, that's a very good question, and that one I cannot for a number of reasons. Joe, Lynn, you know, LA is still around, okay, but, and I'm not going into any detail, okay, she'll be back on track as soon as we can get her there. Okay, I do appreciate the question though there, Joe, and I'm absolutely certain so does Storm, but that's not for me to lay out. Rest assured, she will be back with us. Okay. Now, the nice little part, you know, the nice part about the idea of budgeting your time or planning out what you're doing, it boils down to writing it down. Now, you've heard me talk about the list method before. Okay, quite consistently. Frankly, I still use it. This is why I got the man. Oh, that reminds me. What is that? Nope, not that. This one. That neat little pad that I keep handy. I can remember where I put it. That's always useful. I am missing a clipboard. That is not good. Okay. What do we got here? I just make a note for myself to make certain that I get things responded to in a proper fashion. Now, when you're looking at your time, okay, look in a 24-hour clock, but span it out over a week. And the reason for that is most people don't work only 6 hours a day. Okay, but when we start looking at budgeting your time or putting percentage in, take your pick, there are 4 areas of your life that you've got to strive to keep in balance. Your personal time, whatever you do on your own that you enjoy doing just for you. Now, it may include other people, but the important factor is that it's something that you're doing because you enjoy it. Okay, so that's your personal time. Then you've got your interpersonal, which includes time you deliberately spend with friends, family, co-workers, that special someone, maybe your kids. Okay, maybe it's a bunch of strangers that you go out and just deal with. Okay, that's your interpersonal. Then you've got the third aspect, which is your business, your finances. Whether you're talking about what you're doing for a living or your education, because of the fact that you're working towards improving your income, either one, that's your third area. The fourth area is the one most people overlook. That's sleep. Okay, and I will tell you, so many people I talk to refer to needing and to requiring 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. Well, just to put that in perspective, and some of you do require it, but to put that in perspective, if you're sleeping 8 hours a night, you're sleeping a third of your life away. Okay, Now, it is very important that you don't let your health suffer because you're going, oh, I shouldn't sleep so much. Sometimes, and I know I suffer from this, if I sleep too much, I end up being groggy, short tempered, not able to function properly. And where it comes to finances, it goes right out the window. I'll tell you, one of my biggest expenses, like it takes, my basic assessment is it takes about $300, whatever country you're living in, okay, to feed a family of four for a month if you do it properly. Okay, like if you do it effectively. Yeah, Storm goes, I'd love to sleep 8 hours. And occasionally, yeah, occasionally it's not a bad idea. You know, I've been sleeping way too much, but I find if I get over 6, I'm in trouble. The thing with it is this: I worked it out a while ago, and I figured, well, what would happen if you cut your sleep to 4 hours a night? Okay, and here's what I found: if it doesn't disrupt your health or your energy levels, you gain a month and a half living time. Okay, now you can get a lot done in that time. And besides that, in my opinion, I got lots of time to sleep when I die. Not as much as you, in all likelihood. I've been making an average of a 7-year turnaround. But by planning what you're doing and by talking to to your other half, and here's a real kicker where it comes to finances, and take this one to heart, people. If you've got kids, do not make the mistake, okay, of cutting your kids out of financial discussions. If you don't teach them while they're at home, you are essentially condemning them to have to figure it out later. That is the one mistake my parents made, in my opinion, is they didn't include us in the day-to-day. Okay, so I'm encouraging you to absolutely discuss it. Okay, it's great saying, telling your 13-year-old, we can't afford that, dear. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to do without for now. You will have a way better time if you go, here's the finances, this is what we have to pay, and that's why we can't afford it. You may find you get a lot more help and a lot more support
Sorry, folks. I don't know what's actually happened there. Something tweaked on my end. Keith, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. I just thought we
Okay.
were off air.
You're not off air. The audio streams been running this whole the entire time, but I'm not sure what happened. It glitched out. I fixed it. Please continue, sir.
Okay. I guess we weren't quite ready. Oh well. That said. Joanne, but let's get back to I got there we are. Joanne, you made a comment in there about electronics. Great idea. I will deal with that particular idea as in different techniques of dealing with sleep, at a future date. I don't know exactly when. Okay, I don't have that set. Oh, wait a minute. I might have part of it there. What do I got here? Scroll back up. Tomorrow, we are going to be looking at, tomorrow, which is Tuesday, we're going to be looking at building yourself, at believing yourself, building your self confidence. And we're going to show you how to go about doing that. Okay. One of the things that you will find is there's a lot of topics out there that are not being covered. And absolutely, people, if you come up with an idea, or if there is something you would like to look into, or that you feel other people would like to look into, do drop me a line and let me know. It would be really appreciated. I've already got things booked into the end of September, but I'm putting a list together to be able to adjust things as we go. Now, just a quick reminder for the other issue here. Absolutely, when you have a question, and this is way more important now than it used to be because of the size of the writing on my monitor. If you put your questions in all caps, I can actually read them. But I find it very difficult to read the tiny little pixels on a 15-inch screen. One of the other things where it comes to finances that we have to remember, okay, is money does not care how you feel. You can be as sick as a dog and it will still do what it does. Okay, but when you're looking at investing in things, okay, and that's a whole different ballgame. Focus on your home first. Make sure you're covering your expenses. And by the way, when you take a look at it, running a home is very much like running a business. Okay, and by the way, running a home, a small business, a big business, a global business, or a government, they all use the same techniques. Now, I've been consulting for over 50 years. Again, I know that sounds like a real stretch, but I started when I was 10. Okay, and it hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed now is I no longer ignore my own finances, which I did for the longest time. And of course, there's those out there, and there's those of you that are going to go, well, you're not a millionaire. Why should I pay attention to what you're telling me? You don't have to. I'm not a millionaire because I was dense enough not to plan for the future. And there's an old saying that goes, people don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. Now, I'll tell you right up front, I went bankrupt twice already. Okay, I won't do it again. The first time because of what I call creative financing. Okay, just a small example, I took $1,000 credit card limit and ran it up to $2,000 before they cut it off. Okay, the second time I went bankrupt was because my boss bounced a paycheck and the bank didn't even tell me about it until it was too late. Now, that said, if you can learn from what I've already made the mistake of doing, or from what somebody else made the mistake of doing, okay, Whether it was a mistake, whether it was stupid or true ignorance, that's your call. Okay. I define true ignorance as for whatever reason you didn't know better. Okay. But stupidity is you knew better and did it anyway. Hence, I am one of the stupidest people you can run into because I knew full well. I taught bankers how to make money work. Okay. One of the things we have to remember is you're the one that's going to have to take the initiative. I will do what I can to fill you in on the mistakes that I've seen made. And rest assured, with over 100,000 clients under my belt over the years, and yes, I did literally say 100,000. I don't use a database as in read up on what the government says or what the newest CEO says. Okay, I don't look at the percentages because I learned how percentages can work. Get this. Have you ever heard a commercial that says, toothpaste X? 4 out of 5 dentists recommend toothpaste X. This sounds great. It sounds like 80% of the dentists are recommending toothpaste X. Until you do your research and find out they had to ask 100 dentists to find the 4. So they take the 4, add 1 to it so it's not 100%, and they haven't lied to you. Okay, but they have misguided you deliberately. And this is why I say, don't just take my word for it. Do your own research. I have another book coming out in the near future called Believe in Your Success and Follow Your Dreams. All the Believe in Your series are all available for $10. I believe in the PDF form, you're looking at $10. If you're looking at the hard copy, you're looking at $20. But that includes shipping. Okay, and that's all listed on the website. And I know there's people that keep contacting me. They go, we can build you a website for X amount of money. You're not getting my money. It's that simple. Okay, so save yourself the hassle because I've already spent tens of thousands of dollars on marketing, on people building a website for me. Not going to happen. I've got one that's working. Yes, I've got to learn to utilize it a little more efficiently. But when you're looking at your finances, you have to work on your communication line with that special someone if there is one. If there isn't, I do feel for you. I'm lucky. I just got married, and I'm quite happily looking forward to spending the rest of my life with her. Of course, in all fairness, pretty much everybody I know that gets married with the idea of spending the rest of their life together. Except for one, where they had known each other for a month and decided to get married. I said, why would you do that? We just wanted to try it out. Now, I will tell you, just trying out marriage, it's an expensive thing to find out doesn't work. Okay, but absolutely, if you've got questions, you put them in all caps. Now, we're bringing things down to a close right here. Because by my count, what am I looking at here? Nope. Yeah, by my clock, we're looking at 5 minutes. Okay, now, with that in mind, we'll try this again. Okay, and I know Storm's listening in. So, with that in mind, if you've got questions, go to the buymeacoffee.com Inner Voice J link. That will show you how to get a hold of me. Okay, if you've got questions, drop me a line or come on air and ask me, come into the chat room and ask me the question you've got, and I will do my best to give you an honest answer. I appreciate that, Joanne. I'll tell you, it's been a ride, but I am happy to say we are in the process of moving her up here now because she's coming up from the U.S. to Canada. Okay, and we're just going to stay put. Now, if you've got questions, absolutely drop me a line. I'm intending on being in here Friday through Tuesday. Okay, I'm not planning on taking any more functional days off. Okay, aside from Wednesday, Thursday. But I am going to get back to doing the buy me a coffee, or not buy me a coffee, getting back to doing a day in the office. If you see me online, I'm only on Facebook and LinkedIn. So absolutely, if you see me online, drop me a note. I will more than readily talk to you if I'm available. Okay, that said, I do want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to having LA Moon back in the saddle here. But priorities first. Yeah, and this is to all of you. You must be true to you first. And you've got to take care of your health first before you start doing anything else. I had a long break. I'm back to work. Okay, but I will be back. Until then, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.